A quarterback won Super Bowl MVP, and less than a year later, the internet had turned him into a punchline. Same player, same arm, same legs. Jalen Hurts stood on a confetti-covered field in New Orleans as the most valuable player in the biggest game on earth. And by the following season, his name was showing up under clips of stalled drives and dead-eyed sideline shots tagged with jokes. Nothing about him got worse overnight. So, what changed? Because the answer isn't really about Jalen Hurts at all. It's about a position that absorbs blame it never actually earns, and a scoreboard that only knows one name. Here's the question. This whole thing turns on. When an NFL offense stops working, why does the blame land on one man in a helmet almost every time, no matter what the tape shows? And why does the same thing happen to the number 10 in soccer, in leagues on the other side of the planet, in a sport with no huddle and no play calls shouted from a headset? Because if that pattern repeats across two sports that share almost nothing structurally, then it isn't about football tactics. It's about how we watch. And Jalen Hurts is maybe the cleanest example anyone has ever handed us. Set the scene properly, because it matters. Hurts came into the league as a second-round pick out of Oklahoma after starting at Alabama and being benched at halftime of a national championship game, which is about as public as a football humiliation gets. He wasn't handed anything. In Philadelphia, he took the job, held it, and dragged the Eagles to a Super Bowl, where they lost a genuine classic to Kansas City. 2 years later, he got the rematch, and Philadelphia won it. He was named Super Bowl MVP. That's the resume. Not a projection, not a hype cycle. That's on the record. So what happened after? What happened is the thing every championship offense eventually meets. Defenses got a full off-season of film. The Eagles' identity had been built on physical, downhill running with a monstrous offensive line, a genuine star at running back in Saquon Barkley, and one of the most unstoppable short yardage plays in modern football, the quarterback push on 4th and short. That play worked so well, the league argued about banning it. But an identity that clear is also a target. And when the run game gets crowded out, the passing game has to carry more weight than it was designed to carry. That's where the memes were born. So let's actually put it on the board, because this is the part almost nobody in the comments does. An NFL passing play is a chain, and the quarterback is the last link, not the first. It starts with protection. 5 blockers, sometimes 6, against 4 or 5 rushers with a running start and a full week of planning. If one of them loses, the whole timing of the play collapses. Then it's the route runners. If the concept doesn't stress the coverage the right way, nobody comes open on schedule. And only after all of that does the quarterback get a decision to make. Now watch what the broadcast shows you. The camera is behind the quarterback. It follows the ball. When a play dies, you see a man holding the ball too long, or throwing it at somebody's feet, or scrambling sideways into a sack. What you don't see is the guard who got beaten a half-second earlier, or the receiver who rounded off a route 12 yards downfield, or the coverage rotation that erased the primary red before the ball was even snapped. The failure is collective. The image is singular. And once the image goes into a clip, the clip becomes the whole story. And there's a second thing working against him, which is style. Hurts has never been a highlight reel gunslinger who throws it 40 yards on a rope for fun. His value is efficiency, ball security, decision-making, and the ability to run for a first down when the design breaks. That's a quarterback who wins games without producing viral throws, which means when the offense is humming, the credit spreads out to the runners and the line, and when the offense stalls, there's no spectacular throw sitting there in the clip to defend him. His strengths are invisible on a phone screen. His struggles are not. So the internet did what the internet does. It made a template. Short clip of a drive going nowhere, caption pointing at the quarterback, thousands of shares. Then a second clip. Then a screenshot of a stat line with no context about down, distance, score, or who the Eagles were playing. Once the template exists, it stops needing evidence. Every incomplete pass becomes proof of a thing people already decided. And this is the strange part, because the same man was still leading the same team, in the same division, with the same coaching staff that had just won a title. Nothing about the resume got deleted. Now here's what makes this genuinely interesting instead of just unfair. The blame isn't random. It follows a rule, and once you see the rule, you can predict it in advance. Quarterbacks get blamed in exact proportion to how much the offense's success depends on things the quarterback doesn't control. That sounds backwards. It isn't. A run-first offense with an elite line gives the quarterback fewer chances to look great and more chances to look responsible when the running lanes close, which means the better your supporting cast is designed to be, the harder the fall reads when it stops producing. Watch it play out on the board. Defenses start committing extra bodies to stop the run. Fronts get heavier, safeties creep down, and the interior gets crowded. Now the quarterback push on 4th and short. The play that used to be near automatic meets 11 defenders who have been rehearsing for it all week. Now the Eagles need to pass on 2nd down instead of running. Now the protection is holding up against more exotic pressures. Every one of those changes moves the load onto one player's shoulders, and the scoreboard doesn't come with footnotes explaining any of it. This is the turning point of the whole story, and it's not a play. It's a realization. The backlash against Hurts wasn't a verdict on his ability. It was the sound of an offense's structure changing, translated into the only language a casual timeline understands, which is one man's name. Football distributes responsibility across 11 people on every single snap. Football culture refuses to. So when the machine slows down, the culture reaches for the one part of the machine that has a face on the broadcast, a number on the jersey, and a name everyone already knows. And the legacy of this moment isn't a record. It's a lesson about how modern sports arguments get built. Hurts is already in the record books as a Super Bowl MVP, and no amount of clipped-out drives changes that line in the Eagles' history. But the pattern that came for him has come for basically every quarterback who ever won something and then hit a rough patch. If you're finding this useful, subscribe, because breaking down how football actually assigns blame is most of what we do here, because the next part is where it stops being an NFL problem, because soccer runs the identical script with different equipment. Think about the attacking midfielder, the number 10, the one who gets the ball in the final third and is expected to make something out of it. When the team can't score, who gets it? Not the fullback who never overlaps, not the midfielder who plays every pass backwards, not the manager whose shape leaves nobody supporting the striker. The number 10 gets it because he was closest to the goal when nothing happened. Same logic, same camera bias, different sport, different continent, identical instinct. And that comparison exposes something honest about both games. In soccer, the creative player at least touches the ball on his own terms, drifting into space, choosing when to receive it. In the NFL, the quarterback touches it on every single offensive snap, whether the play was designed well or not, whether the protection held or not, whether anyone got open or not. He has no option to hide. That's the deal at that position. Total involvement, total exposure. It's the most powerful job in American team sport and the most defenseless one at the same time. There's one more layer, and it's the part people miss most. The push play, the quarterback sneak variant that Philadelphia turned into a weapon, made Hurts uniquely visible in a way no passing statistic captures. It's a play where the quarterback's body is literally the point of contact over and over in the highest stakes yard of the field. When it worked, it was a team achievement about leverage and mass. When it didn't, the camera was already pointed at him. He built part of his value in the least camera-friendly place on the field and paid for it in perception. So the payoff, plainly, the Jalen Hurts backlash wasn't evidence that a Super Bowl MVP suddenly forgot how to play quarterback. It was evidence that when an offensive structure shifts, the load moves on to the one player who is on the field for every snap and in every camera frame. And our storytelling has no mechanism for spreading that load back out. The memes weren't measuring him. They were measuring what the 11 around him were being asked to do, and then billing it all to one account. Which is why the smartest way to watch football is to stop watching the ball. Watch the guard. Watch the safety before the snap. Watch whether anybody actually got open. Do that for one drive, and the story you were sold about a struggling quarterback usually falls apart in front of you because you can finally see the other 10 decisions that made his one decision impossible. Hurts didn't need defending by the numbers. He needed the camera to pull back about 15 yards. A Super Bowl MVP became a meme, and not one thing about his football changed. That's not a story about a quarterback. That's a story about us. Next time, we're going after the play that Philadelphia made so effective, the league sat down and seriously debated outlawing it, and what soccer's own rule writers have done when one team solved the game too well. Subscribe, and I'll see you on the board.